now that the hurricane has happened. And it definitely will benefit those in positions of power, if we are being blunt, than your average person in this situation. So we have to keep that in mind. And don't sell your land. You understand? Don't sell your land. Don't sell your assets. If you're in a position where you can bring funding together as a community, do that instead. You understand? Trust me.
Completely flattened and devastated. And then do your reference work and look at Vision 2030 and see whether or not those natural disasters seem a bit odd.
In the coming weeks and days, I'll be making certain announcements
Andrew Holness
regarding the acceleration of Jamaica's intention to become a fully digital society.
If I'm honest, what I've come to realize, what the digitization of society really is about, is one, there's something called techno-feudalism. We'll play that at the end of the stream. And I think it's really about control, taxation, inequality, and the end of capitalism as we know it, and entering a new socio-economic framework. But that, in my opinion, I think a lot of these digital cities are just an extension of this new socio-economic structure that we're entering, which is called techno-feudalism. People, you can look it up. You understand? There is definitely going to be benefits to this, but I think the trade-off will be control. The trade-off will be surveillance, and the trade-off will be the inability to address inequality in society and challenge power. That will be the trade-offs.
Is the best option. Kelisha Williams has that story.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness used the opening of this KFC location in Black River, St. Elizabeth Saturday morning to announce what he has described as a big deal moment, not just for the parish, but for Jamaica.
But suffice to say that the area that we have been advised is the best area to do an entirely new city, and it is because all the
St. Elizabeth, very rural. Some of the rural areas in St. Elizabeth, especially known for St. Catherine, St. Elizabeth have some of the thickest patois. But these are also the areas that have been affected worse by the hurricane. And it's very, very suspicious that prior to the hurricane, these were the sites. People, yes, we're going to get into afterwards when I hop back on the stream. The recent killings by the police raids in Brazil, and also the ongoing war crimes that have been committed in Sudan. Like I said, people, I really, really want to touch down more on issues of the African diaspora, black people around the world, but international issues as well as domestic issues. You understand? I'm trying to touch everything, but in particular, issues to do with our people. I feel like we don't do a good job of talking about our problems enough. So I'm going to try and really do my best to cover these issues within due time. But yeah, people, let's just stay on Jamaica for a bit now, man.
Jamaica needs to prepare itself for this dispensation of the fourth industrial revolution, where the cyber world will be paired with the physical world. So you're living in the cyber physical. Technology and machines are working together, not just to deliver services in an independent way that was largely delivered in a non-physical way. Now, as was demonstrated, you have machines that can be deployed with artificial intelligence that can function physically. So it's not just...
Oh, and the dangerous part about this is with surveillance. The trade-offs, remember that, like I said, there's going to be a lot of benefits that will come with this, but I think the trade-offs people will need to focus on is loss of more control, loss of power, the consolidation of power by a minority, the increased inequality and inability to address inequality, and also the loss of rights, and the privatization of public spaces. So what you're going to see is certain rights. People think that rights are something the government give you, rights are something that you fight for, you understand, that you're entitled to as a human being. And through legislation, you understand, often violence might facilitate a right being, or protest, or physical direct action against the government or something may take place before a right is even put into legislation. But essentially, this is something you fight for against the establishment. It's not something the establishment gives to you. The establishment has to acknowledge your right after you fought for it, because it's something that you're born with, you understand? That's why it's called a right. You understand? You're acknowledging, I have a right to freedom of expression, you understand? And because it's such a pivotal part of the public sphere and enables democracy to do what it needs to do, that was just common sense, you understand? When the founding fathers, all these significant figures, put freedom of expression and freedom of speech into their constitution, is something they had to fight for. And it's something that even prior to the fight they felt was common sense, but it was the fight and the acknowledgement by those in power of the right that facilitates it. However, your rights can be taken away simply through power. So if someone has more control, if there's more surveillance, and they have the means, you understand, through power, you understand, to take away your right, then you're unable to defend your right, you're going to see people's rights being, and you're kind of already seeing this right happen now in the UK, especially rights to around protesting and freedom of speech are kind of eroding under the guise of digital IDs and under the guise of terrorism laws and very vague things that have been going on really since the pandemic, under the guise of immigration, all of these things that are kind of eroding people's rights and consolidating power through surveillance and control. So probably we'll see certain things happen in Jamaica, but there will no doubt there'll be a lot of positives with this as well. But in my opinion, most of these positives will come to those that can afford it. That's why I'm telling people, do not sell off your assets, because don't expect to go back to Jamaica after a island's being rebuilt and be able to afford the new Jamaica unless you have your enclave, you understand, your flag post, you understand, that's holding it down for you there, you understand, that's holding your way of life and your living. So irregardless of what's going on in the country, no one can tell you nothing about what you have to pay. But if you get rid of those things, that's your leverage gone.
Enter jobs that we need to be looking at.
It will create jobs. It will create, but here's the thing. If inequality is high, if there's no minimum wage, then what does working mean? The whole concept of money is created just to trick people into working. Money isn't a real thing, you understand? Gold is real, and gold has had historic use, you understand? But the concept of money is created by banks and nations to get the masses to work. But if the masses can't get minimum wage, if they can't afford basic services, you understand, then what is the revenue from those jobs going to do for those people? So these is what people have to look beyond just a job. You have to look beyond just these small things and look at the bigger picture of the economy, you understand? Because what can that turn on into a slave? If that means as long as you're working, you can afford the lifestyle in Jamaica. But guess what? The moment you stop working because you might not have rights, you might not have property, you might not have assets, now you're displaced. So you turn yourself into a slave. So these are the things people have to think about. It's not simply just about jobs and the economy and profit, but it's about also your rights, it's about your assets, it's about your community, and it's about longevity, and it's about safeguarding the most vulnerable people in society, in my opinion.
Very closely. It is other kinds of jobs that will also be impacted. The solution is not to hide from it. It's not to be...
It is heartbreaking.
And I think that's the reality at the end of the speech, is that a lot of people will just simply lose their jobs. I don't think it's going to create more jobs. I think it's going to displace a lot of people socioeconomically. But I don't know necessarily if digital IDs and smart cities is the solution. I think it's just creating a space for those that won't be displaced or can afford to be displaced. But those that can't, in my opinion, I don't think there's going to be a long-term vision for them on the island. So this is why I'm telling people, make the plan with your community now. This is a reset. I'm going to call it out for what it is. This is a reset. But within the reset, now you guys have to reset your plan as a community. Don't let the agenda come from the IMF or the government. You understand? They're going to do what they're going to do, and they're going to do support in the way they can. But you set your agenda for the future now. So communities, it's up to you to plan what you want for yourselves. You understand? Families, up for you. Individuals, up for you in Jamaica to decide what you want for yourselves. Even those in the diaspora that own land back in Jamaica, don't sell your land. Now's the time to plan for the future, because everything is resetting and recalibrating. So the plans you had before, you better adapt them, update them, or change them.
I never thought in a million years that I would be in the situation trying to get help, and with little to no communication. We can't reach no officials, no emergency teams. The best help we have received after the hurricane is from security personnel from the Lakove police station.
You see what I mean? So is this the best? You're telling me a country that's clearing its debt to the IMF, that's getting investment from all over the world, is this the best it can do? Is what the military and the police is going to respond? And I'm not to downplay the roles of officers and the incredible work they're doing, but I'm talking about those that are commanding you. I'm talking about those that I know they've been sitting on this amount of money from time ago, and you have this catastrophe happen every single year. You're telling me you don't see the sense in putting money into having some sort of emergency service, into some sort of public infrastructure, you understand, that can safeguard the islands from hurricane and have maybe even a hurricane relief in place, you understand, prior? You're telling me you don't have these things? It seems like you guys are just reacting. And yes, the reaction is good, but with something, when something is a pattern, that means it happens over and over again in the same way. So that means there's 5 P's. Prior preparation prevents poor performance. That means you guys have seen the pattern happen and you haven't prepared. Be proactive. You've decided to be reactive, or it's not within your interest to be proactive. And I remember, this is a critique of the higher ups. I'm not critiquing the people. This is a critique of those that put the island in this position, in my opinion.
Who tried to get us medical assistance, but to date nobody has come, because they too.
And this is not to downplay all the incredible work people are doing now. I'm not talking about the reaction. I'm talking about what was done in preparation. I'm talking about being proactive, and that is my critique fundamentally, from the oil companies to the government to corporations, every level. What was done in advance? No, this happens every single year. Nothing, and that is my main critique, because it's not profitable, I think.
Are flooded, they have lost their homes, and we're just not sure what to expect from this, but it feels like a total reset to us right now, a total reset, and I'm hoping and praying that help can reach us soon, especially the persons who are between ages 72 to 86.
It's rough for 70.
So you can see protests.
People are mad.
Big up everyone on TikTok, yes. Active. Hop on Twitch, Frontline Media LTV, if you want to see the full extent of the stream. So you can see the hurricanes also devastated Cuba and Haiti as well. It's devastated Cuba and Haiti as well, equally as much as it's devastated Jamaica.
On a parlé pas de route et dans zone là tout à fait moun donc on va regarder là
Llevo el primero,